Boom. Good morning.
Boom. Happy Friday.
Okay, what's going on in Kellen's world?
I just made an appointment for next week to try something I've never done.
Okay.
I'm a little nervous.
Yeah.
Have you ever done dry needling?
Oh my goodness.
Don't say that. What?
Nothing.
My husband did it and loved it.
Okay.
Said it was really effective and helpful.
You ever hear of placebo? You ever hear that?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it a placebo effect?
Listen, I want you to, I don't want to poison your experience. I'm not going to say anything.
Because
the
even
other
if
side.
it is, and if it works, I will take it. I will take it.
Okay.
And it's like in my neck and stuff.
Sure.
So. Needles in my neck.
Yeah. You signed up for it.
Yeah.
You ever hear of the doomsday clock?
I think I have. Yeah.
Okay. I want to talk about doomsday clock.
Oh,
we did a lot of
God.
the end of the world stuff this week, so I figured we'd end it on another high note. So
yeah.
Doomsday clock is basically a bunch of scientists get together and they kind of weigh in where we're at, what things are going on, what the sentiment is, what the conditions are internationally, and they predict how close to the end of the world we actually are.
That's
And
nice.
what's interesting is, in our lifetime, it has the ability to move forward and move back. Okay. And it's meant to give you an idea of how close we are tipping at the end of our existence. Okay.
In case you didn't have enough anxiety in your life.
So we'll say like in the 1990s, the doomsday, when it reaches midnight, that's the end of the world. And so it was 12 minutes to midnight in the 90s.
What?
It's 12 minutes to midnight. So sounds like not a lot, but right now we are 89 seconds from midnight. So we've moved from 12 minutes to 89 seconds based on what's going on in the world. So those people feel like we are moving closer and closer to our extinction.
But I mean, clearly 12 minutes and 89 seconds is not a real 12 minutes and 89 seconds. So what's their timeline for 89 seconds? What is that to us?
Well, it's sort of like a comparison sake where you're only gauging if you're moving closer or further away from. So you could turn the clock all the way back and you could be the previous day if you had world peace and a 0% chance of our demise. But
so it's not necessarily whether or not we're harming the planet, it's social things too, and war and stuff like that.
Yeah, I doubt that the harming the planet thing is even on the radar of reasons we're not going to exist anymore.
See, that's what I kind of thought it was, is changes in the climate or planet and when the planet will give out. But
human beings don't have a real good beat on scale and how long things take and how things adapt and change. So if you were to take a crazy person that had a nuclear weapon and put that on a how long before a crazy person does a thing and whatever, you would say, okay, well, high probability and in a very short term thing. If you say rising sea levels over the next 400 years, different thing, because linear timescales are basically that conditions aren't going to change. There's going to be no adaptability. Nobody's going to make different decisions. It's going to stay consistent, right? Mm-hmm. And there's so many variables on what it takes to rise the sea levels. And that's why if we charged somebody and said, all right, screw what's going to happen and a victim of it, go make the sea level rise 12 inches and you got 400 years to do it. So engineers have to go in and figure out how to freaking do it and then come to the obstacles of nature working against you. And as you start to do things, then nature's like, nope, you're not doing that. But linear means that you're just going to be successful. Nothing's going to adapt to you. There's going to be no technological advances, and you're just going to be able to do the same thing over a long time. Short time scales, crazy person, nuclear weapon, right? Those are the only two variables involved. And that's why, when we're conquering things, the crazy person with the nuclear weapon, conquerable. Melting ice caps with laser beams, and hopefully over 400 years you raise the ocean for 12 inches.
With laser beams on
very difficult to keep the consistent variables over that line of a time scale. So that's why doomsday clock shouldn't even enter these long-term deals, because you can't control enough of the variables to make that even a predictable thing.
Well, and I've heard, we're not infinite even if everything's going well. I can't remember how many years I heard, but it's so many million or billion years, our planet will burn out. according to scientists, I guess. Like they said, it's a fact that there is a timeline. Regardless of what we do, even if everything's hunky-dory, our planet will burn out in so many billion years or something.
Our planet will be consumed by the sun because as the sun burns its fuels off, it's expanding. And so it's growing closer and closer to us. As it expands, the heat and energy that it gives off is coming closer and closer. So it's going to be swallowed up by the sun eventually. But we're talking timescales again of billions of years.
Yeah.
So we got like 1 billion years left. What are you going to do different?
We could end ourselves long before that.
Right. And by that point, we'll be traversing, different solar systems and into different galaxies. So that, it's not even worthy of a conversation because there's nothing you're going to do about it. Just keep adapting.
We'll just hop on over to Mars to buy us some time.
Yeah. Well, that is sort of like the test of whether or not we can do things over scale. So the stuff I'm listening to in physics is about, like right now, it's inconceivable to even leave the solar system. If our solar system gets gobbled up by our sun, how many generations of space explorers would there have to be to even reach the next closest galaxy, right? And we're talking generations of you blast off on a rocket ship with a bunch of paired up procreators. They have kids, they have kids, they have kids, and then those kids haven't even gotten out of our solar system yet. So on our ability in science, time is working against us that we're not going to get far enough away from the crisis in order for that to be useful. So in physics, they're working on making sort of like space and time start, how we talk about space and time doesn't exist. Well, the technologies of quantum physics, where we skew time and space, where we can travel long distances, where time scale doesn't work against us, but it only applies on the people who are traveling. So if you travel to, another galaxy in your time or in your lifetime, everybody that you left will have gone through the normal one. They didn't do the space-time jump with you. And so you will survive, but everybody is long dead on wherever you had left. So
this might be a dumb question. Okay. Obviously, we've never sent a person to another galaxy. Correct?
Can't do it.
Have we ever sent like a device to another galaxy? We've never left our galaxy.
We have sent probes that have not even reached. In the 70s, we launched probes that have not reached the edges of our. Well, we have. I take that back. I think we have 2 probes that just went beyond Pluto and just started hitting space outside of our solar system. So this is 50 years of travel.
Because that was my question was going to be, how do we know there are more galaxies? How do we know there is more than what?
It's a good question because observable universes, we've seen stuff that we've interpreted a certain way, and that's an important distinction. Because the scientific answer is we don't. We are having conjecture based on observable evidence that there's things that are outside of our solar system. They might have great confidence in what they think they know about the galaxies and the space and the time that's between them, but you don't know until you've actually done
proven.
But again, this is a contemplation. Oh, you're looking at my blank papers.
Random blank papers.
Random blank paper. But you because you don't know, like, what if you're wrong, right? And the distances are too vast, or when you start going out into space, that there are factors and things that end life where it's just not possible to travel deep enough in space to escape our solar system.
Yeah, what if you go through a door and it's like the Truman Show, where it was just
like a big black curtain with holes poked in it? Yeah, that totally could be that.
What if it's just
not probable?
What if it's just like another realm or something?
Could be.
Or what if you hit?
But again, we're taking today's technology and the impossibilities of what we know can't happen, and you fast forward 100 years, and then the things we're contemplating that are really hard are going to be really, really easy because quantum computing is absolutely going to replace human thought and contemplating this stuff. So we're all good. We're in safe hands. But yes, weather and environmental factors, be reasonable about it, where you don't want to like shoot yourself in the foot when it comes to this stuff, but also don't sacrifice humanity based on things that are totally out of your control. Because here's what's going to happen, right? No, it's going to happen. So we're going to be like taking all this carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, which is acting as a blanket that's keeping heat in, right? Capturing it. And then we're going to enter like an ice age or a cooling phase. right? And then you know what we're going to do? We're going to be like, oh, everybody's dying because of extreme cold. Let's get some carbon dioxide and put it back in the atmosphere and warm the planet back up, because we think we're so smart, but then the Earth is going to be like, got something for you, and going to undo what we thought we were doing, because it's too slow. Anything we're going to do, we can't do at a big enough scale and quick enough to make a difference.
Do you remember Y2K?
Mm-hmm.
When people like believed this was it, this was the end of the world.
Yeah.
And like, were you like a Y2K prepper?
I was an experienced expert at Y2K. I made a lot of money during Y2K.
How?
Because the same,
that was so high. Sorry.
the same panic that everybody else felt, I learned about it and knew what the real threats were. And there was some. Tell me what you know about it, and then I'll fill you in with based on it.
I mean, I think I was in high school, middle school, high school when it was happening. And I remember people thinking that like our technology is not able to continue. You know, like we had clocks and we had calendars and we had things running, like programs running that could not continue past midnight, December 31st, 1999. And everything would just stop and we would lose computers and we would lose all these important systems and it would be mass chaos, or I don't know, something's going to hit the earth. We're just all done. Like, I don't understand how they thought it was like the end of the world, but I could see how people thought that it was going to be the end of our technology, which would cause mass chaos.
There were two things. One was a simple problem that was actually causing all of this. And the second one was just the unknown of how that then waterfalled into other departments. So for instance, there was an old programming language. Remember, at the time that all of this was happening, data was very scarce. It was expensive and it was scarce. And so anytime you can engineer efficiency out of something, you did it. And now we don't refer to like a 4-digit year versus a 2-digit year as a deal breaker as far as consuming so much memory. But there was a programmer that said, if I only use 2-digit year, I'm going to save all of this memory space, and hard drives are wicked expensive. I'm going to save tons of money on it. So COBOL programmers started using a 2-digit year. And when everybody saw like what's going to happen because we didn't put any 2 digits in there, when it turns over to the year 2000, it's going to go back to thinking it's in 1900 or 1700 or whatever, you know, what other the computer comes up with. So that was the simple problem. My computer and your computer didn't give two shits if it was 1900 or not, because it made no decisions based on a date year. But there were systems that wouldn't know what to do. So banking was the big issue that called us in, that says, you know, we compute interest, we compute loans, we compute, you know, investments based on time and date. If those systems roll back and start executing data rights based on a year that's now in the past, do they start clawing back interest because now the dates don't satisfy where it's supposed to be? And they just didn't know. So our role in it was to just fix the glitch, right? So our job was to tell them here's where the program goes to look for a date. And when it goes to look for that date, give it the proper date. And that was it. Most of the programming went down to the computer system BIOS, and the system BIOSes were going to go back to 1900. So we updated the BIOS so it would say 2000, and then the COBOL programming just ended up working. It was a very simple problem and a very simple fix, but we did it and those banks did it. But what about a government system that did something that nobody was paying attention to and nobody even looked at? It's just been running in the corner for 20 years. What happens when that one rolls over? And that was the fear.
So if everyone's like all the computers were going to crash, it's not that they all were.
No.
It's just, could important ones be affected?
Yeah, and they wouldn't have crashed. There was zero computers in anything that we came across that crashed. There was actually nothing that literally happened in any of the computers we did. Are you
telling me that the American public got a bunch of false information
and caused panic, made people spend unneeded money, and a lot of people made money off it? Yes.
That's unheard of.
Why would they do that? And if you ask the general citizen, like general knowledge citizen, what happened, they still don't know why they panicked, why they were afraid, and why they spent extra money. Still don't.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Like, is there any hindsight? Yeah, it seems scary, but it made sense now that I think about it. We just had to do this. But
there were people at the time, very smart people, that said this is a non-issue. You're causing a crisis out of nothing, and try to talk people out of spending a great deal of money. And everybody who had a vested interest in making a bunch of money were saying, no, it's going to be catastrophic. We're all going to die, which made people fearful, and they spent money because they were fearful.
Yeah.
See a theme here?
My good friend's dad was like stocking supplies in their garage and basement and, non-perishable items and bottled water and all this stuff for Y2K. And I'm just like, I mean, maybe it's because I was young. I'm just like, I'm sure somebody's got this. Like, we have the brightest minds. We can go to space. We can create computer programs.
But you see,
we can't figure this out.
In our society, if you create fear and you can make money, you just lean on that fear and just basically take everything you can out of the public. That's what happened. And it'll happen again. So I don't downplay environmentalism as that there's a problem there. I thought there was a problem with Y2K. I know that if they can get you scared about something, they can just take all of your money doing it. I know I've seen it happen more times in my lifetime. It's just another one of those.
Yeah. I mean, and that's everything. That's any product. It could be whether it's your health, your finances, anything, your kids, like they can scare you into buying anything.
Scare you into spending money.
Dry needling.
Although
I was not scared into trying it. It was, hey, this might help. And I said, at this point, I'm going to try absolutely anything. And I hate needles. And I'm still going to go do it. Just because
I'm going to reserve. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to even say anything. Okay. If you want to be one of those people, be one of those people. If it makes, I'm sorry. One of those people. I shouldn't say that. One of them's people's. No, that's not any better.
Wait, so do you think the people that have done it, that saw benefits from it, are just experiencing a placebo effect? And they didn't actually.
No, there's acupuncture, there's medicine that targets nerve endings and the circulatory system, and there's true science behind it.
Yeah, there's a long explanation about what it does to the muscle and blood flow and easing muscle tissue.
When something becomes trendy, people do it, and the practitioners that know what they're doing are few, and the people who just sell a product based on whatever. I mean, people are licking Himalayan rock salt to this day, right?
Yeah.
And they feel better doing it, and they'll swear that it's good. I have people that still take essential oils and they rub it under their nose, and they swear that
or on your feet and stuff. Yeah.
Remove the toxin. So I'm very there's usually just like in the Y2K, there's a thread of good, a thread of truth, and everything around it is extracting money from people who are just like, what can it hurt?
We should do a whole show with a medical professional one day about these things like Epsom salt and essential oils and Himalayan rock salt lamps, and see what is the actual science? Is it doing anything?
All of these things are percentages of a percentage of a percent, right? So you can make the argument that there is some good in it, right? Yeah. But not to the level that you drill in, because we take a pill, it does a thing. We put a coin in, we get a candy bar. It's a 1-for-1 exchange. If I said that you go up to a vending machine and you put a quarter in, and there's a percent of a chance that you're going to get a candy bar, right? Mm-hmm. Then you probably wouldn't do it because it's not a 1-for-1 exchange. We can't process probabilities that are so low, right? Yeah. But then if I reinforce it and say, give you examples of this guy put it in and he got a candy bar, then it basically tricks your brain into doing something that is a very low probability, but you feel good about it. And the good feeling is what does most of
and this doctor did say, this could be minute. You could have a fraction of feeling better. And I was like, well, then let's try it. I'll try anything. But it was very clear. Some people have great results. Some people are like, that was nice, but now let's move on. And some people are just like, yeah, I'm a little better.
So in most people's lives, they have things that are 80% contributing to the problem, and they have 1%. All right. Which one do you think they're going to go after? Controlling the 80% one with all of their resources and energy, or the 1% that they can mail in? What do you think they're going to do? They're mailing it in. All right. So I'm reserving what I'm going to say, but I can write it down in an envelope. Okay. And I will tell you exactly what you're about to experience.
Fine.
Okay.
Dennis says, invite RFK on the show.
I did.
I did too. Well, you're on this one?
Oh, yeah.
So when he was running for president, I reached out.
Yeah.
And I was going to try to get an interview. And it was just a lot of like, hey, we received your email. Obviously, RFK is very busy, but if it's beneficial,
I think he's got some stuff on his plate right about now, though.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure
like
that...
I had to, did you have to fill out a form of like, what is the podcast? How many followers do you have?
Yes.
What is the reach? And so maybe at the time we were not as impressive as like larger networks.
we were able to name our listeners. I just put Bob, Julie, and Dennis.
Dennis wants to hear from you. Maybe Krista now, Joe, Isaac, and Luke.
We personalized it.
We don't want to hear from you.
Yes.
And that just wasn't practical.
All right. So Nostradamus. Okay. Every
Oh.
couple years we get a dosage of Nostradamus, and we really like this kind of stuff. I'm calling horseshit on the whole Nostradamus stuff.
Yeah.
I really am. But people really dig it. They like the Farmer's Almanac because they think that these sages are able to look. Nostradamus peeked into the future 4,000 years worth of predictions.
Dang.
And this year is a big one from the interpreter's standpoint.
Was Nostradamus part of the whole end of the year 2000 thing?
I don't know.
Oh, because I feel like people have been saying he predicted the end of the world for like decades. We've been saying, he said this year. Oh, he said this year. That must just be myth.
So the way it's interpreted is that there is no chronology on what he said. He basically writes out quatrains, so it's more poetry than it is here's what's going to happen and here's on what date. So depending on the context of other things, we're trying to extrapolate timeline based on those other things. So he might mention spaghetti, right? And then we're like Italy, and then Italy's like Mussolini, and then we start like just making these weird jumps of conclusions, and we're like, I know exactly what it is. And it leaves it's almost like those people who do readings, right? They need information, and they start weaving together those readings to make it situate so you're like, I got it, light bulb.
Yeah, it's like take a general thing, but then weave it into sounding just specific enough that, I think I know what you're talking about now. And then you just run with an idea.
I'm seeing someone named Bob. Do you know Bob? Yes, my Uncle Bob.
That's Bob.
And then my spreadsheet said 75% of the people have an Uncle Bob. So it's a high probability if I say that, then you are
I
now
do have an Uncle Bob.
I'm telling you. I knew that. We started this conversation. Now we will finish it with me telling you. Here's what he wants to say to you.
Seriously,
he wants to say to you.
You have any Bobs? Like, I have a brother Bob, so even my kids have an Uncle Bob.
Okay, so Uncle Bob, he's sitting at a table right now eating Chinese food. He wants you to know that the Chinese food is dangerous. Don't eat the Chinese food.
My aunt just told me that they're trying to avoid gluten, so he can't eat the Chinese food.
That's a warning.
This is a real thing, by the way.
I'm nailing it, aren't I?
Oh, yes,
right?
Yes.
And I'm also seeing a pet of some kind, of beloved pet. And am I hitting something?
I think they did, but yeah, it's just funny.
Oh no, they had it.
Everybody has that, yeah.
Yeah, a beloved pet, and I'm getting some kind of old age or sickness in the beloved pet. And what?
It's funny.
So let me read you on my super secret papers here.
Yes.
A quatrain from, and first I'll tell you that there are two events that are being predicted that interpreters are saying going to happen in 2025. Number one, a large pandemic. Number two, a near collision with an asteroid or a meteor. A close call or a hit, a collision.
I think we hear that a lot too.
No.
Always an asteroid coming.
All right, so here's the quatrain, and I want you to tell me what he's trying to say here.
Wait, who said this?
This is Nostradamus. Yes.
Okay.
From the cosmos, a fireball will rise, a harbinger of fate. The world pleads, science and fate in a cosmic dance. The fate of the earth, a second chance. There's the prediction. That means that we are going to have a close call or a meteor strike coming right from the predictor in charge.
Or the really religious people can be like, that's a metaphor.
Could be a metaphor.
It's Jesus is coming and we are just going to all start over.
But when it's interpreted, it's presented like he said, in the year 2025, a meteor that burns bright will pierce the atmosphere of Earth and people will die and you will catch on fire.com.
.com.
All right, second quatrain.
Oh, God.
And this one is the war of Russia and Ukraine. The war in Russia, Ukraine.
Okay.
Through long war, all the army exhausted. So they do not find money for soldiers. Instead of gold and silver, they will come to coin, leather, Gaelic brass, and the crescent sign of the moon. So
wow.
The interpreters say the crescent moon would be Turkey, right?
Yeah.
So the flag of Turkey would have it represented by the crescent moon, is going to help end the war with Ukraine as it runs out of money. I have no idea about the leather and the Gaelic brass and maybe the trade of things other than, trading the mineral rights rather than giving them money for armaments. So that's the interpretation. And I couldn't find the pandemic one. So that's probably just the default. He probably said in the first quatrain every year.
Pandemic measles.
Maybe the new pandemic is the measles.
Oh.
I think we got a good handle on the measles. I don't think it'll be that one. No. It's not going to be monkeypox, but
it could still be something that, like,
metaphorically speaking.
So
anyway, you have to really read into Nostradamus to come to any kind of conclusion, and you have to extrapolate lots of things. Did he mean the crescent moon, the actual crescent moon? Did he mean the flag of Turkey? Did he mean that he was interested in the crescent bread that was coming out of his Pillsbury oven at the time? We never know. We never know what he really. But so you got to trust the interpreters, and they're always unnamed interpreters, so they can say whatever they want.
Don't we kind of do this with the Bible?
Of course.
Do you trust the Bible more than Nostradamus?
For predictions, I trust nobody's predictions. Nobody's.
Mm-mm.
Anybody who says they know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Al Gore, the ice caps are going to completely melt in 20 years, said 38 years ago.
Yeah. At one point he gave us like 10 or 12 years or something until mass whatever.
Yeah. And again, if you nail it, you are just a god. And so I can see where people would really like to know what's in the future. But from a probability, like the doomsday clock is our best predictor because we're using data to take and you can roll it back, right? So if the Mayans were like, the world is going to end next year. Oh, hold on, things change 2 years from now. If they can keep changing it, right?
Oh, I must have meant this. I see. Okay, I thought it was this, but it does make sense. It's actually this year. Yes. Have you ever encountered someone though who was so good that you're like, do you really know something? Or are you just that good? Like, have you ever, I love Halloween. I love spooky things. So I'll pay, if it's not a lot, I pay to go to like mediums or psychics, knowing that I don't believe them. But I just want to see like, what can you come up with? Like, wow me with your ability to BS kind of. And most of the time it's like, no, that was awful. Like did you even try? It was awful. But I didn't go to a woman one time. I didn't pay I wasn't anywhere. I was at work and somebody happened to walk in that just for whatever reason felt the need to start telling me something that was spot on. And that woman, I was like, I don't know who you are, and she was just like, that's it. Bye. kind of thing. And I'm just like,
it's not magical.
And somebody was like, oh, that's a party trick. And I was like, it probably is. Maybe it's a party trick. I don't know why she felt the need to just randomly come tell me something for a party trick. It's not like she was asking for money or anything, but it was interesting.
So again, the thread of the 1% practitioners really have a gift and ability, just like the acupuncturists versus the people who arrive on the scene and just exploit the fact that everybody is enamored with magical things.
Yeah.
But you take into consideration, there are people on this planet that receive information that you don't receive. The world, everything around us is nothing but information, visual information, tactile information, like everything's just information. And just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. So if we're driving in the car and I'm calculating our speed and distance, and I say we're going to get there at 6:13, right? And I just tell you that. And I didn't share with you that I was calculating speed and time. I was using information, and you weren't paying attention to those things.
Yeah.
And we arrive at 6:13, and you're like, how did you freaking know that? It would have been more impressive before GPS, where we're used to making a machine tell us exactly when we get there. But you think it's magical if you don't know how it's being done. Then it is really just a trick.
Hey, you might know an answer to a question I was asking last night. Asked my family. So I think I've asked you this before. Do you ever watch Love on the Spectrum?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, so do you know Abby and David? David, they said, sees colors as numbers. Do you have any idea how or what they're talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Or how that, like, how is a color a number?
It's a long discussion. So,
Okay.
and being in tech and the computer industry, you can do very complicated things by simplifying them. Okay. So what computers do, you go from binary, which is the most simplistic thing possible, but it's not very usable because it's too simple. But you can translate binary into something else. And as long as you do the routines fast enough, you can translate up and down from those simple things to more complicated things. So for instance, a computer can do a simple transaction 1,000,000 times a second, and then through logic, translate it to things that are useful, like a character that displays on a screen. And just the assembly of smaller structures. So we, in higher and theoretical math, we do a lot of translations to make things make sense. So if I wanted to take a complicated thing and then simplify it down to a simple part, I can carry around the simple part. And when I need the more complicated thing, I can translate it back up to its more complicated counterpart. So is it simpler for my brain to carry around orange or the number 1, right? And if I ever needed orange, I can go back from number 1 back up to orange. So mathematically, you could start making these translations happen automatically where you don't see the color because it carries too much mental overhead. So you see the number and then you can do more things quicker.
Is it your number associated with it, or is it a universal thing?
It would be your translation. Some are naturally occurring translations.
So if, like, they said to him, like, orange, purple, red, blue, and he's like 2368.
Right.
But to you, it could be 9152.
Right.
Okay. So it's not a universal. It's how you.
But what I'm saying is sometimes naturally those things occur where there is a numeric translation that's natural that everybody sees, even if we don't recognize it.
So is it at all like, I could be way off here, but let's say I'm filling out my calendar, like on Outlook. I sort of just know, like, hey, I feel like this type of appointment is purple in my mind. This type of appointment is blue in my mind. And this type is yellow. And I keep anything that's involved with this is yellow. Anything involved with this is purple and blue. Is it kind of like that? Where
that's
I just
more
associate
associations rather than translations. From translations, you actually translate it down to its simple part. And then the other one disappears until it needs to be translated back. It's almost like cryptography, where you scramble something up and you don't need it, or it's not even in its final form until it's translated back.
So somebody could ask him, hey, what's your favorite color? And he could say 3.
To him, they're the same thing because it's stored as a simple part.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I still can't.
But it's not how normal brains work. The practice of doing translation that way is something that you have to do on a regular basis with a lot of different things to get really good at.
That's interesting.
But human beings don't do that naturally.
Yeah.
We keep our headspace and our consciousness for the most part, and we don't translate things down to the subconscious and translate them back up. So we're not really good at it.
Yeah, that show is really interesting when they talk about how their brains work and how they are seeing and experiencing things. And it's so different from the way that other people do. And it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah, like card counting, for instance. Like you could play mental maneuvers to be able to what's actually happening on the table. Your brain isn't even recognizing. All your brain is doing is taking calculations based on a number, adding to a number that's in your head, and then and then when you need that number, doing action on it. So if somebody said, hey, what's the count on the deck? And you're like +2, right? That's what the game means to you. And then if they say, was there a jack of clubs anywhere on this table? You're like, I don't freaking know. I translated down to a number and I stopped paying attention to what, the face card was, because it didn't matter. It didn't even enter into my deal. So all right. So here's a good example. So there's a kid that got the world record for being able to add up, I think it was 100 4-digit numbers, and they only flashed on the screen for 1 second, right?
Oh, this sounds familiar.
Right? Yeah. So how do you coach your brain into doing automatic math? Like you and I would add things up by saying, okay, carry the 1 and whatever. Could you train your brain that when you see a series of numbers to automatically add or subtract? Yeah, you translate it to a different form, and then your brain does the simpler form. And then when you need to arrive, because he has to type in the total at the end of the however many minutes that he did it, and he just was able to do it. Now, he wasn't carrying that number in his brain, but when he needed to pull the lever to take the number, his brain just gave him the result that he was like all through translation.
Dang.
It's a skill. It really is.
How about the people that can read very fast? And they say they just sort of like, I think they described it as almost just like skimming the whole page very quickly, and the brain's sort of able to fill the rest in. So like they're not reading every individual.
Exactly. They're absorbing all the information that's on the page all at one time. And that's more likely that people who read people or do those, mystic readings, they're doing the same thing where they're taking in information on the aggregate without having to do what you and I do or have conversations. They have access to information that you and I don't, because they're translating what that other information you and I can't see.
Do you think maybe not all of them are doing it on purpose to scam people, but that's what they're doing and they think they have some spiritual power?
Sure. I can see that.
But really it's like, oh, I just thought I received this
telling
information from spirit,
they see. Yeah.
But it's really just how your brain is wired to
Exactly.
work. Ooh, have you heard of, what I just came across? Have you heard of the telepathy tapes?
Go ahead.
So there's multiple videos on it. There's a woman who is a director. I think she made a documentary about it that was on a podcast. And then there are also podcast people that have disproven it and said that it's false. But what it basically is they have a group of autistic children that a lot of them have what's called, I know I'm going to butcher this, is it aphasia or something? What that is they don't even have, they don't conceive their own body. Like if they need to do something with their hands, someone has to touch their arm for them. So that can signal to their brain, here is where my arm is. Like they are totally there is no relationship between their conscious mind and their body or other things. They are literally just intense consciousness. And they've done multiple tests and studies on this group of kids, and they believe they can communicate with each other telepathically, and that they can be in other states, other cities, other areas, whatever. And either send information to each other and be talking about something and prove it, or like they would put the kid in another room and the parent would write something down or look at something, and they'd be like, what's your mom looking at? And they could say it. And it's sort of like a combination of remote seeing and actual communication. And they have this chat room called The Hill, and they'll tell each other, hey, let's meet up on the hill. Let's meet on the hill after school or after whatever. Well, what's the hill? It's a telepathic chat room that all of them are conversing together at the same time. And supposedly there's proof that they're doing this, and they can tell each other what another person was thinking and writing and whatnot. Again, other people have claimed to debunk it, but they're saying that it's one possible. And the reason that they do it so easily is because their brain has turned off other things that we are focused on, and they are just totally focused on that.
Yeah, it usually takes being deprived of one of your more overwhelming senses to be able to get the quiet and, because it's not a lot of, if you're telepathic or you're doing remote viewing or you're doing something that requires you to intently pay attention to information that's scarce, very sparse, right? You have to tune out the other information that causes your brain to overreact to it. So
yeah, I mean, she said like one kid, he's got to wear big boots so that he feels the ground under his feet.
Right.
Because he just doesn't register.
But I don't believe that, once you come to that realization where your other senses are going to dominate and you're not going to see that information, then you don't have to be deprived of those senses, but you can quiet those senses to make use of the things that are
and their point was they believe that instead of us being bodies with a consciousness, we are first consciousness. We happen to have a body.
I'll go with that.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, studying quantum really changes your perspective on how our orientation and our perspective of how things are couldn't be further from what the reality of how things really are. And I mean, that's why, when I talk to a physicist and we talk about that the Earth isn't necessarily flat, but it's probably not a sphere.
And then people look at you like, okay.
Yeah, just like with the same understanding of how information travels distances, vast distances between two people, that we can't use, any kind of energy to pass that information other than, well, maybe the only distance that there was in our own perceived distance, when you and I, no matter how far away we are, energy-wise, we're in the same spot, overlapped, dimensionally connected.
Yeah.
Quantumly entangled.
So cool. It breaks my brain.
But in 100 years, when we're flying spaceships that can collapse distances and we can travel as far as we want for as long as we want, we'll probably have a race of people that have developed parts of their brain that really have no use for visual, audio. All of the senses that we use right now are going to be useless. So we could be that brain in the jar, right? And have a complete, perfect experience without being able to see the Jack of Spades.
I mean, like when we've talked before about here, the idea of lucid dreaming. And they say there's been people that can dream so lucidly, I guess if that's a word, that they can communicate to the awake people. So really then you could technically kind of go about your life unconscious in a way.
Yeah, and we're flirting with those capabilities, right? And we're getting eyes that it exists, but I don't foresee anybody be willing to deprive and give up what we experience right now for the sake of a superpower that way. So those fringe people that for some reason get exposure to it, get to experience it, for the rest of us, it's a magic trick is what all it comes down to.
Kevin says, are we talking about Jane Hawk right now? I don't know. Tell me who Jane Hawk is. Maybe that's the woman I'm thinking was on this podcast, but I'm not sure. I don't remember her name.
How did we go from doomsday to remote viewing? Like we go everywhere. All right, since we're on that topic, let's talk about some automations.
What's that?
Stuff.
Automations.
Okay.
I'll try.
So do you think in the future that when, human beings and certain jobs start getting replaced with automations, robotics, and AI, that people are going to push against that? So for instance, the longshoremen, all right, we have in our ports where we take our imports and send out our exports nationally, when compared to all of our competitors, their ports are automated where robotics unload the ships. We are forcing in our contracts to not automate, to protect the jobs of the people who can do this, even though the automations can do it better, can do it faster, can do it cheaper. Are we able to push against that? Or if we start losing to China, who's doing it fully automated, and we're not even an option because of how terribly we do it, do you think we lose at that point?
It probably also cuts back on any corruption, theft, things of that nature. Although I've heard that some stores are doing away with like self-checkout because people are stealing. Mm-hmm. But again, I guess that's still sort of human run. I don't know. I mean, on one hand, I want to say, quit getting rid of jobs and let people work and let people do it. But if it is so much more efficient and better.
Okay, let me roll this out because this is actually happening. So I want to see if you jump off of this boat. Okay.
Okay.
So now there's a a movie franchise, right? That
Yeah.
you freaking love.
Yeah.
And the main actor died, right? So there's no more sequels to this movie. But they find a way to sculpt this actor where it's indistinguishable from when they were alive to doing it. And they're going to make a sequel where they're going to put this actor back in the movie, and you get to have
They've done that.
Fast and Furious 12, right? Now, are you pro recreating a dead actor?
Not really, no.
Why?
Because I feel like it's sort of stealing their image. It's taking away from, like, if they were incredibly talented and they owned their talent, their look, their abilities. They were them, you know, they brought that appeal.
Now, I said it was indistinguishable. So if you didn't know that they were recreated,
like we're, like, robbing them. It would feel like we're, like, abusing their ability.
But they're beloved. Like, everybody wants to see the sequel.
Right. They are beloved.
Yes. So what they put on the screen for us is beloved, and we can no longer have that thing.
It's not real. It's their beloved because it was a person's ability to
do this. But if you believe it's them and no one told you, you would still love them.
No one told you.
No one told you. They could just recreate them, and you can have your sequel, and you would love it just as much as you did before because it is them.
If I believed it was them, I wouldn't know any difference.
Okay.
If I knew it wasn't them, I'd be like, this is blasphemy. I don't want your fake actor.
Now, if you found out that an entire movie was created, like what if that actor never really lived, and all of the movies before that, they were also part of that recreation, and none of the people were in the movies. You liked them.
I'd feel bamboozled.
Okay, you'd feel like you were robbed.
Yeah.
Why? You fell in love with an actor or a premise that was fabricated in theater? Who would have thought that it wasn't?
You're talking about. But wait, are
real?
You saying, like, if I take a celebrity, like an actor that I loved, and I've seen them, like, not just in the movies, but on red carpet events, in interviews, on podcasts, in commercials, and you're saying never existed, it was all
fabrication.
That's where I feel like, what if it were just, what's a movie? We never said this was a real person. I'd be like, fine. But if it's like, wait a minute, you led me to believe this was a real person. You put him on talk shows and
you still
interviews.
Enjoyed it. You still loved it. It was fulfilling in every way you knew it to be. If it was a fabrication, it was a really good one that was pro Kelin. You liked it. So what's the difference?
Because it was just a lie to fool me and make money, and it wasn't real, and that person's not real.
So it needs to be real. So you won't watch anything unless it's real. What if the
not necessarily?
Tell me.
Again,
what needs to be real?
I need to know what it is. Like when Val Kilmer passed away and they said, we have enough of his voice and enough image that we can finish a film and it looks like he was in it till the end. Okay. Because I know he's gone. I know what they did. I know what this is, and I can appreciate what they did there. But if then they say, hey, we're going to make another one, and we're going to make another one, we're just going to continue using his likeness, then I'm like, that's shady.
Well, there's only one element. Like if the person is a flesh and blood real person, that's the only thing that you're objecting to.
I'm objecting to them using someone's image if they were a real flesh and blood person. If they never were, that'd be a different story. If they were always made up, that's still being a little shady, but
okay.
It's
So
than...
what if you found out that Val Kilmer could not fly an airplane at all? He had no ability. What if he was not a badass who really couldn't do anything with guns or anything in real life?
That's not real.
What if the brand that was Val Kilmer was completely fabricated? And if you met him on the street, he was nothing like any of the characters that he played. The flesh and blood was what was being presented to you.
But what you're loving is the talent, is the ability to look like he can, is the ability to take you out of your mind and make believe to think he is this role when you know he's not.
Well, what if the AI is better at it, conveying those emotional connections and that skill set?
Well, then they can do it, but don't do it by running off of what a real person started. Don't steal from their talent and then make your own and think you did something great.
So the premise has to be original.
Yes.
And we'll fight for all original premi. This can stay consistent that long. That long.
Listen, if Joe Danyi
Yes.
built an empire on his talent and his intelligence and his abilities and his work ethic, and then Joe Danyi passes away and someone says, that's all right. We have enough of what he did. We'll just keep running with Joe Danyi's image. And your image, your look, your voice, your everything continues to make someone else money when you're gone. Don't you think your family might feel a little
look at the entire commercialized country that we live in? You don't think that there is an originator that people don't leverage on their successes?
I'm sure it happens, but you're saying, do I like
and that's why I say, like, this if there was a principle of the energy, the image, the talent was solely belonging to the person and nobody else could tread on it, use it, leverage it, prosper because of it, then I'm with you. But that's not what we do. We leverage smart people all the time.
Yeah, like people's
so why are actors? Why would actors be the only ones in this narrow band that we're going to preserve and protect? That is the talent that's untouchable, with computers can replicate.
It doesn't have to be just actors. AI, I'm sure, can take a human sounding voice and put notes together and write a hit song.
For sure. And that's what, here's my Nostradamus prediction.
Yeah.
Every movie that you're gonna see are going to be actors that have been created based on all of the likable actors that have ever been created. So they're going to make super actors and they're going to play all the roles that everybody loves. Every movie is going to be
vanilla.
Every movie is going to be a hit. Every score is going to be perfectly timed and executed. There won't be a human being behind the writing. AI will write it. Acting, AI will create it and perform it. The music will all be created by AI, and it will be the perfect product. There will be no warts in anything you ever see. Every movie will be a box office hit, and you will love it every time and want more. It's perfect. Every song
feels wrong.
Every song, absolute perfection.
It feels wrong. It feels wrong. I feel like I could not appreciate it. Could I bop along to it? Yes. Could I say that's a good, fun song? Yeah, sure. Oh, was I entertained by the movie? Yes. But deep down, it feels wrong. There wasn't a human being with talent behind it. There was nothing that had to be overcome to achieve this. There was no hard work and training and talent and study that went into it. It's not a person that was able to cause another person to feel some kind of way. It was just all fake. So it'll feel wrong.
Trust me, we don't care about fake. We don't care. We don't care. We live in illusion. We do not care. A little bit. We do not care. I watch people go to wrestling. Everybody there knows it's fake and they enjoy it anyway.
When I was a kid and I liked it and I learned it was fake, I stopped watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's so fake, it's unbearable for me to watch. I can't even stomach it because it looks like it's like the worst play acting you've ever seen.
But people love it, and that's why it will win.
I know.
And if I say money is fake, it's fake, but you'll buy into money. Everybody will buy into money. If I say time's fake, you'll buy into time. So there's like I said,
because you buy into what you're getting from it. Yes, to your point. I know, but still,
yeah, trust me. When it gets good and when it gives you a superior product and when it's better at everything, you'll get over the annoyance that it wasn't authentic or original or came from a human being. It depends on
what it is for everybody. It depends on what it is. Like, if you're passionate about something and that industry gets taken over and taken away from people, you're going to feel some kind of way about it. But if you're not passionate about something and the computerized version benefits you more, then you're not going to care that it went computerized. I think it's whatever you have an appreciation for. But do you think the majority of
people are, if we didn't have this conversation with them, if all we did was deliver the thing and we didn't really talk about what it means or how it was happened, how the sausage was actually made, most people would just turn on the TV, they'd watch the flick, they'd enjoy it a lot, and they'd say, when's the next one come out? That's it.
I mean, look, we do that with food. some people say if you go to a factory and watch how something's made, you'll never want to eat it again. And to me, I say, then I'm not going to go to the factory.
Right. That's exactly right. And you're right. In every other industry, we want the illusion, we want the experience, we want the enjoyability. We really don't want to know what went into it, how the sausage was made. We don't. And so we buy in to the Matrix. That's why give me the steak, right? I don't want to wake up in some starship that's broken down, wearing raggedy clothes, eating some cold oatmeal. I want the steak.
James says, imagine the emotional disruption from the actors' families. Because people who care about what is being changed will still care, even if something better is served to them. I think it depends on what it is.
Yeah, but that's again, thin band. You buy a robot and now you can just have the robot do everything that you don't want to do. Think about the families that's disrupting. You would never, you are looking at your benefit and what that robot can do for you. Yes, there are going to be ripples out there of other people who are going to be disturbed because of it, right? And you're going to either say, if I'm connected to it, then I care, right? Yeah. But if I benefit from it, I care a little bit less because I'm getting something out of the exchange. So yes, in the math, that's why we're warning you 10 years before this actually happens, right? Yeah. So you can start warming up that if you want to become an actor, and I'm like, hey, Bob, you might not want to put all your energy into becoming an actor because you're just going to get replaced with CGI and AI is going to just produce something way better than you can perform on stage. So don't do that. Now I just saved you because now there's plenty of time for you to find something that won't be replaced by AI, which is nothing.
Yeah, I saw recently, I didn't read what it was, but there was some article. It was like, here are all the jobs that will be gone in like 10 years or whatever the timeline was. I didn't even see what they were, but I'm just like, oh, that's a little scary.
Yeah, but it's 100% going to happen. So it's not like I'm going to disagree with this and try to stop it. It's I'm going to orient myself so that I'm not a casualty of this thing. And that's the story.
How do you not, like, if everybody's going to be replaced, how do you continue to make money or
See, this is that access to information that if you are objecting to it, then you're not going to see the information. If you're like, in my brain playing out what's going to happen, where we're slowly going to incrementally add things like ChatGPT, where we can write books and have information and answers. Well, at one point there was somebody who sold that information, and now ChatGPT will just give it to you. There was a point where musicians had to spend months putting together songs, and now ChatGPT or whatever will put music songs together, just create music that everybody likes. So when you know that's going to happen, right, you're like, okay, well, they're going to fill in all of the creative exploits that somebody who's made a premium by having talent. Anybody who has talent, right? Talent versus utility. So I'm going to say, hey, go do something that has utility rather than talent, because talent's just going to, it was overdone, overplayed, right?
Yeah.
People weren't worth as much as they thought they were. And then when a computer's doing it, it's way more efficient and there's not as much cost that goes along.
Yeah. And I hate that because I want to see how someone is through what they do. Like these commercials we see, they have the ability now to write an email for you based off of what you want to convey. And you're like, hey, what's a more professional way of saying yada, yada, yada? And it will construct your whole email and you can send it. And I'm like, bull crap. Don't do that, because you can learn a lot through what someone is sending you. Like, I recently got an email and the person wrote, well, I seen it on Facebook, or I seen this when I was blah, blah, blah. And I went, thanks for showing me all I need to see. Like, if that's how you talk, if you think that's proper grammar, it's not. And that says something. Like it or not, that says something. But if someone just drew up an AI generated professional sounding email and sent it, then the other person doesn't get that understanding of what they're getting. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what we're talking about is essentially a commodity, right? And when a commodity is scarce, so let's just say that I had a little cup full with a little pieces of gold nuggets. And you'd be like, wow, that's very, I don't see gold nuggets everywhere. But what if you walk through a town where the gravel on the roads was nothing but gold? And I put something down and you looked at it and say, what the heck's that? That's just freaking gold. And you throw it over your shoulder because it's not valuable. So when we overplay something, when you overdo it, when you either fake scarcity when it really wasn't scarce, and then when the gravel gold comes up, you're like in shock a little bit. Like, this ruins a lot of things. Something that I thought was very scarce is now I see is very plentiful. Or like if gasoline was or oil was $60 a barrel, and then there's just pools of oil, all of a sudden what you had interest in something when it was scarce and you made a lot of money on it, now it's just freaking everywhere. And you're like, shit, I was saving that because I could sell it, and now it's just everywhere. And then you don't do the things that are going to be commoditized
cost and
easily.
demand.
Exactly. So when you do that, when you do it inauthentically, it's just a matter of time before the thing that you're doing was commoditized. So you could look in the utility, things that can't be replaced they cannot be commoditized. So if I'm giving Billy what should I do when the androids take over things, that you pick something to do that has no ability to be commoditized. And you just have to be honest what's a commodity and what's not. What is super valuable only because you say so, right? And one of the big tests are that if there was a crisis, an apocalypse, a catastrophe of some kind, what is an actual utility? What is an actual utility? So if all of civilization is broken down and you've got a stack of $100 bills, what's the usefulness and utility of the $100 bills? Would serve for you hanging on to it because you might be able to buy something, or lighting it up on fire, starting a fire so you can eat. It's something that used to be valuable in one respect is now tinder for lighting a fire and cooking a meal. And that's the way that checkmate your brain into knowing what a utility is and what like commodities.
If someone found a penny on the ground, are they going to go and take it? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
But how many years ago they'd be like, ooh, penny. If you find
commoditized.
You find a quarter, maybe not. You find $10, you're bending over to get that. I still don't like the whole AI taking
so the
everything.
The actor that we're reincarnating somebody who is beloved, and even when we did like holograms, I think it was Michael Jackson that we created a hologram and you got to experience during a halftime show or whatever it was.
Was it Prince?
No, I think it was Michael Jackson.
Maybe both of them.
Yeah. So they created a hologram so you could enjoy it. That wasn't the real person, but everybody in the audience was like, oh, this is really nice. We haven't seen Michael in a long time. And we got to see him do one more dance and one more song.
But you know it's fake. You know it's not real. You know it's not him. You're like, it's like watching a video of him. If you're like, oh, I'm watching a video of this guy who lived and look how great he was. That's one thing, other than we're just going to take your image and continue to put out stuff and act like it's you. That's shady. That's inauthentic.
Why?
Because you're stealing someone's image to lie to the public
but
to
not
benefit
even
yourself.
What if we created, like, I could take Bruce Willis and I want to keep Bruce Willis pure, but I want to create a Bruce Willis stereotype character that's not really Bruce Willis, but it's everything you love about Bruce Willis. The way that he talks, how he looks, how he behaves. And when you look at it, it's like, that's not Bruce Willis. But when you look at it, you're like, yeah, that's kind of Bruce Willis. Encapsulates everything you loved about somebody who's beloved, but AI created everything you love in that character. They can do that.
I mean, kind of like I keep seeing AI videos on social media that I know are not real.
Right.
But they're hilarious.
Right.
And they sound
so as long as you like it, and as long as you're viewing, and as long as you buy it.
I know they're not real.
Right. But it doesn't matter if they're real. Your sense of what is real has to be agreed upon. And
it's what is right and what is wrong.
There's no right. Yes. There is no way.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep.
Nope.
Yep. If you said, I'm going to recreate Bruce Willis's image and continue to create movies and sell them and make money using his image when he's long gone, you're telling me that's not a bit wrong.
No. If you are doing it and you are not breaking license agreements. Okay. So if I bought
you could be.
If I bought Elvis's license agreements and I started making Elvis music,
and different.
Then I'm legally allowed to do those things. So if I make an image that's not that person, but encapsulates what a viewer likes about it, how am I depriving the original creator of that, of anything?
All right. If it's not that person, but they have the same mannerisms and style, fine. But not saying, oh, Bruce Willis in Die Hard 5. And you're like, but Bruce Willis died. That's not Bruce Willis. Then it's shady. But if you're like, all right,
I'm not saying trick.
Here's Die Easy, and it's a guy that kind of resembles Bruce Willis. Okay.
I'm not saying trick you into thinking that is Bruce Willis. I'm saying that you create what you love in that character and allow you to have a Fast and Furious 97 with eternal characters that never die, so you have to miss them. Or they don't have to kill them off in the storyline because they died in real life. They can live forever.
Like keep making John Wick. It's just not Keanu Reeves.
Right. It's the John Wick character. And like New Edition, right? The music you loved, all new characters. How about cover bands? Like the songs you love, not any of the real people, but you keep enjoying their music.
Yeah, but sometimes it's got to be close or else you're like, ugh.
It has to be believable. Right. Yeah. And that's AI knows what you like.
Like you can have Batman and hate who's playing Batman.
For sure. But AI will figure out when you reject something and never do that again. And when you like something, keep doing more of it.
Like everyone loves Joker, but who loved the, what's his face Joker? Singer of 30 Seconds to Mars.
Oh, I don't know.
Suicide Squad Joker. Somebody knows this actor's name. Come on. I would know it. And Jared Leto. I feel like people didn't like Jared Leto Joker, but Heath Ledger Joker, yes. Jack Nicholson Joker, yeah. Jared Leto, I could be wrong. I don't know. But the thing is they know, okay, it's the character different versions of. That, okay, fine. If they legally have the ability to create the image of a character, fine. Just don't say, here's this actor. And you're like, no, it's not. Oh, well.
Well, and I thought you were going to make this argument because it's really the only plausible, the only thing I will listen to. In order for AI to do anything, it needs source material to emulate. And everyone it was sourced, right, becomes its mentor for whatever it creates. And it's taking 1,000 actors, so you can't present that, attributing it to the people who, inspired it in any direction because it's everybody. It's on the aggregate. But without those 1,000, it wouldn't have source material to do anything. So it needs to have something already be done to.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Okay, so make that argument if you think.
Well, I mean, that to me though actually feels like if it's sort of like the idea of maybe you don't have to cite something in a paper if it's common knowledge. Like I feel like even some, acting methods are common knowledge. And if an actor does like the, oh my God, what's it called? I can't think of the word, but there are certain like phrases and names for certain acting methods. And if an actor does that, well, they don't really own that. That's kind of something a lot of them can do. So I could see AI pulling from lots of broad information because it's everywhere, because it's common knowledge, because it's not unique to one particular person or style. So that doesn't feel wrong to me. To me, that's the same as like, hey, I wrote a paper about something and I included information that's pretty common knowledge, so I didn't give credit to it. Yeah,
because all it's looking for is things that are liked. And so like Christopher Walken, right? Yeah. Has an unmistakable delivery of certain lines in movies, and he is known for that. And so the AI is like, oh, people like every movie he's in, they stop at those parts and rewind it and watch those parts again. So the one that they concoct has a Walken like tempo and delivery. Well, it's inspired by, such as music inspired by other artists that did something that was likable. So yes, Walken made that happen. And had there not been a Walken, the AI would never know to do that. But then you as the viewer of this, you're either going to reject it and say, nobody does Walken like that. I hate you for that.
Nobody and other people are like Walken.
And then other people are going to be like, yeah, I really like that. You would have to really dig deep to defend all original creators, and anybody who treads on anybody else's design or influence, you would have to put them all in that basket or no one in that basket. That's the point. So if I had a song and you thought the hook was really good, and you put a hook like that where it's not exact and you're legally permissible, but you know it, like Under Pressure and Ice Ice Baby, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that's a 1-for-1. So they did it badly, but let's just say it was different enough that it was just inspired by. Well, are you going to take a popular song that probably did equal or if not more than the original Under Pressure and say they were deprived of the gaze or the recognition by the musical listening audiences? It's the same thing.
And I think at least to me, it holds a little more weight when it's the original, because an AI creation of something we already love is just a recreation of something that already existed. But to be the first artist to make that sound, to have that look, to do something like that holds more weight, because they weren't taking it from something that already existed. They created that themselves. They took a little of this and a little of this, and they tweaked it enough to create a new, like a lot of people liked when Queen came out with Bohemian Rhapsody, and they're like, oh, that's like a rock opera sound. It's interesting. It's a rock album, but
I'll make an analogy.
It's a new.
So you're a music and art snob, okay? Just like there are wine snobs, like we talk about the earthy tones and how the wine master. And then there's people who go to
breathes.
Some people go to the grocery store and they're like, I want to buy a $10 bottle of wine and I want to sip it. And
What's
I don't
the
care.
Alcohol percentage?
Okay. Two distinct different groups. That would matter to you, but for the most people, they're not setting their wine selections based on the wine snobs, because the wine snobs don't shop there anyway. So your typical moviegoer, and I know you're going to be completely alienated by what happens next with AI, because everything that's special to you about things are going to be torn out and it's going to be commoditized.
Cheap.
Yeah.
Not going to like it.
Right.
And say, this is just cheap.
But you are going to be quite alone if, and it has to be, that what you're being given because of AI is better. So when you buy the $10 bottle of wine, it's so awesome. It's not like you have to make concessions to not be a snob and accidentally buy one. If it's better in every way, a majority of people are going to watch it, consume it, love it, and never be as fierce with their objection to it.
Is an example of this, like, you know who Theo Von is?
Yeah.
So I haven't seen a lot of Theo Von's content. I catch it here and there. He seems kind of funny and interesting at times. I just don't know much about him because I've never really watched. However, I don't know if you've seen the baby AI videos, and a lot of those, it's movie clips, it's artists, it's everybody. But there's Theo Von baby AI videos that I find hilarious, and I will search those out more than Theo Von's podcast. I want to see the AI baby clip of them using his voice and his likeness, but in a funnier manner.
A better product. What you will watch, what you will be addicted to.
Those things are funny.
So anyway, I just wanted to point out that your objection to what's about to happen is very narrow, and it's going to be across all spectrums. And what pisses you off about theater and movies and music are going to be in other people's territories in the exact same passionate way. So that's it. Nostradamus was here today.
And you're not going to feel at all, not slighted, but just like, oh, that's a shame. Like, what is something you love? What do you love watching? What's your favorite kind of movie, show, sport? What is something you love? I forgot you're already a robot and you don't love anything.
Yes, I'm here to convince humanity to love us robots. And then your emotions are all wrong and you change your weary ways.
There's no like artist you are really into, music.
There isn't an artist that it's a commodity, so you can get it anywhere. There isn't anything that's so
what
unique.
If they took your favorite and they're just like, we're
I
totally making a bootleg.
I love innovators and people who experiment in sciences.
People.
Tesla, Elon Musk, Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie.
They create an AI Elon Musk.
Yes, they
will. Then they runs with everything and creates things and does all these things and makes money and all this stuff. And you're like, but that's not my man, Elon. You guys took his image. Elon's over here unemployed.
No, I'm not in love with Elon Musk. I'm in love with the innovation.
You don't appreciate Elon Musk's brain and abilities?
Yes.
Especially someone who is autistic, to use that different and that natural ability to create what he's created. Doesn't say that's cool because it came from a human who adapted. Not
but that's
AI
not the question. Whether or not I appreciate it is not. If I were given a choose one of these things, do you inauthentically allow Elon Musk to continue innovating, or do you replace Elon Musk with an AI that can do even more innovating? And I'm picking the AI if it could be done better.
Okay.
I don't want him to be there just for the sake of being there.
Do you like Tesla, or do you like what was created? Like Tesla. What
Nikola Tesla?
Yeah. What was his original like?
So he was a mathematician that saw the world in numbers.
And he created what?
Oh, he was able to invent things in his brain. And cool thing is he can create things in his brain, and it would translate 100% to the real world.
So you like him, his ability?
Yes, that ability.
If Tesla made a toaster, I don't know, and it was a Tesla toaster, would you say, I love this toaster, and this toaster's so great, and everybody should learn about this toaster? Or would you be like, I love Tesla and what he can do?
No. Right now, AI can dream up, it can write the formulations for an invention and make it appear on an LCD screen. So what Tesla was able to do in his brain, today's technology can do faster and on a screen where you can see it too.
But that was AI. That was pulling from something that already exists.
It doesn't matter. They can invent the next thing. They're going to invent themselves and the generations of themselves in the future.
We've talked before, and when it comes here, there's pictures of Einstein, of Musk, of all these people that you admired. So are you going to start framing pictures of AI robots
you won't really
programs?
You won't really have to, because now it's just a tool. Well, okay, so you used to go places using paper maps, and now you have GPS. Do you now admire the maps that are not as good as GPS? Do you insist on using something that's harder, that's less useful?
That's an inanimate object. That's not something that took skill, a living, breathing thing, a person that was able to use their brain and information and create by themselves.
No, but there's a utility in what I'm doing. When I'm looking at Einstein, who was at a disadvantage technologically, and he used his brain to formulate things that were almost impossible.
Yeah.
You fast forward today, and if I thought of the same things as Einstein, I have all these tools that can do the same thing that he did, probably even better. So could I use the same skill set that inspire me to create in a way that AI is not currently working on? That it's an inspirational thing, not
to create something different.
Yes, more, better.
So then you created something different, more better.
Using the same strategy.
But then AI says, oh, Joe did it. I can do it now too. And I did it. Well, AI is not cool. You are.
But then I'll just go
copycatting.
But I will do another thing. So once AI will master everything. So if I'm like, I'm going to make a time portal that takes me to different places, right? I'll use all the tools and I'll put the time portal. I'll use Elon Musk. I'll use Tesla, Nikola Tesla. I'll use Einstein to fabricate this time thing because AI hasn't put it back together. AI is going to look at it and say, oh, I can do time portal. So I'm going to say, okay, you take it from this point. Now I'm going to go do this one over here using the same inspiration of the next thing. I'm still going to be necessary and not taking something that AI needs something to exist and then make it better.
Well,
human beings should make things.
You are still necessary
to make things exist.
Yes.
So human beings should be more inventors rather than.
But it's not like AI is just going to take over everything. Then you're saying we have to also then adapt.
Eventually, when AI gets better, it can also fabricate things that don't exist when the logical conclusions say that they should exist.
We've got some comments.
Go for it.
Jerry says, Joe, so economically, AI is going to really change the winemaking process into less manual labor and thus less employees needed. Will this lower prices due to costs? Would it be lower to manufacture? Possibly, unless the AI technology is uber expensive.
This is a good conversation because I debate this pretty often and there's no clear answer because it sort of like bakes in a lot of unrealistic things into it. Okay. So if you take an entire population and now there aren't enough jobs for anybody to do, and you have people that are just doing nothing, right? We're defined by our purpose. And with people without purpose, you have anarchy and chaos. So the first element is what do you do with people to give them something to do where they're not required anymore? They're not required to invent. They're not required to do labor. They're not required to do anything. So they're just idle, right? So the second thing is, let's take a fast food restaurant. I'm going to buy a replacement robot that does burgers and fries. It's a robot, works 24 hours a day, sits there, flips things, doesn't take a break, doesn't break down. It just always does its thing. And there used to be 3 people that did that same job. Okay, so now option A is they just go elsewhere and let the robot do it, and whatever it costs in mechanical, then you just do, right? Mm-hmm. And so yes, in that scenario where you replaced a bunch of people, your costs go down because your labor costs efficiency goes up and labor costs goes down. In hypothetical B, you tie the cost of the machinery with the people that replaced. So you keep your prices the same, and then you take the portion now and give that money to the people that no longer have a job. And now once their material needs are met, so maybe they make 1/3 of what they were before because the robot still costs some money. Now their minimum needs are met. Now they're free to spend their time creating, innovating the next stuff. So they go into the driver's seat.
Financially taken care of
for
to
minimum.
Not do that job, but so they're free up to do.
They have sort of like a foundation of the amount to be able to live. Now, economically, that doesn't work out because 0 becomes whatever that new number is, and everything just proportionally inflates above that. So then they would have to have a net return on that investment. So the robots would then be investing in human beings to make the next new innovation. So if those people leave the fryer and go out there and create the next thing, then that was a positive gain. If they do nothing and they just are destructive and they destroy things, that'd be a net loss. And then that whole economically breaks down.
They're getting paid for nothing.
Right.
So they could either take that opportunity and just be lazy with it, or take that opportunity and go create.
Exactly. So we have to become a civilization of creators, so that when we're dispatched from something we say we don't want to do anyway, that we go do something productive, innovative, and adds a net value to society, which that'll happen, I'm sure, but it probably won't.
I saw somebody recently post something similar on Facebook. They're a musician, like a professional musician, like travel and play and different things, which can be lucrative, but can also very much not be. So, and their idea is like, how can artistic people, you're an artist, you're a musician, you're a creator, continue to do that, but still pay the bills, but still make money, but still survive and have money coming in to pay for everything while they're creating and not actually working in someone's eyes, but they're writing, they're innovating, they're practicing, they're looking into things for this craft that they have that isn't making them money at the time. And I'm like, I don't know. That's why there are starving artists and people that got to go and like wait tables so that they can do other things during the day. And it's like, I don't know. How do people do that? How do they give back to society if it's something like the arts or even any sort of entrepreneurial work that they want to do, but they still got to make money in the meantime to survive?
It's almost treated like international trade. So what we're learning with the tariffs about 2 groups figuring out who's getting the better end of the bargain. Like, do you know when you are making a net entry, like you're doing something that's valuable to another person? And do you know when you're a consumer or you're a parasite on that system where you're taking more than you're giving? And it takes people good at math in order to figure out whether or not you're a good net contributor.
Yeah. Interesting. Julie says, when AI does everything, humans will become stupider.
Yes.
No thanks.
And in the jar. In the jar. That is, if we do not have these debates and we do not figure out a way to do it, this stuff will just happen automatically. and we will end up outsourcing ourselves, and our entire value, human beings, will just be a massive commodity and a liability.
I think we'll die off because, like you said, purpose in humans is important.
Right.
And you take away someone's purpose, they become lethargic, they become depressed, they become sickly, ill.
Yep.
Like we basically die off when we don't have purpose.
But we already know all of this. So if we structured it and let engineers do it and find out what makes a human being healthy and happy and whatever, right? And engineer it so that everybody does that and knows it.
I mean, like people think I'm crazy because I've said before, like if I suddenly won the lottery, or like I marry a very wealthy person and I could just be kept and I don't have to work, I wouldn't. That sounds awful to me. Like I like having a schedule, a purpose, a routine, feeling like I'm accomplishing things, feeling like I'm of value, earning money rather than just being giving things. Like I would hate to just, if someone's like, quit your job, do whatever you want. You don't have to go to work every day. Like that was COVID and I hated it. I hated it. Money was coming in. I didn't have to work. I could stay home all day. And I was like, when can I go back? Like I directly saw how people were like, we need purpose. I've been laid off before where for a brief period of time, money might come in from the state, you know, until you find another job. But until then, you're just existing. And I'm just like, oh, it's depressing. I hate it. So I could just imagine having mass amounts of people. I'm sure I know of people that would love that. I just give money and I don't work and I just chillax all day. I'm sure there are people who love that. But the majority of humans in general, I think, would start to suffer greatly in that.
Jerry brings up a good point. Plan B sounds like a reduction in force and socialism. AI is very scary. The mathematics end in socialism.
I was thinking the same thing.
The mathematics end in socialism unless it is properly engineered, right? So that it doesn't. So the way that international, when we learned a little bit about tariffs, the trade deficit is where we decide, because we're self-interested, that if we do business together and I spend $1 with you, but then you take my $1 and spend it over there when you could have spent it with me, you broke the cycle. As long as we keep passing the $1 back and forth, where you do something for me and then I do something for you and vice versa. But if Bob down the street, I spend all my money with you and Bob does something cheaper and you, through your interest, go there, then you've broken that cycle. So let's just say musicians. You know why musicians starve?
Because nobody's buying their product.
Okay,
basically. Because
the people who are loyal to them don't support them. They spend their money on things that don't support the people that they actually enjoy and whatnot, right?
Yeah.
So they break the chain. If you just pass that money around, then everybody can continue doing their thing in there. But we don't value artistic expressions monetarily.
Yeah.
We value utility and commodity. So we will spend all. So if I have the chance to go to a mom and pop restaurant versus a chain, why would I prefer the chain? It's better in every way, but I know that money is going to go into the chain and it's going to shoot out of your state, right? Yeah. Not going to spend money on schools and libraries and sporting events and whatever. It shoots out. But if I tell myself that if I spend it on Bob, then Bob will make the money and he'll spend it and maybe buy from me. And then I might have to spend a little bit worse service, maybe not same quality of food. Maybe the parking is harder, but which am I going to choose? The one that hurts me on the long term for the short term gain, right? Or am I going to do the hard thing and know that the cycle continues with supporting my local rather than my national?
Because we do that all the time.
For sure.
How many times do you get an Amazon order instead of driving around town to see if you can find it?
So will you buy your groceries from the automated grocery chain that delivers it by drone right on your front door, or you support your local grocery store that has people that do that? In the short term, everybody could be like, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the hard thing. But when it gets down to it, right, we're going to find reasons to do the more efficient thing. And then we're going to cut the people out of there. So it's not a matter of whether or not this is going to happen. It is Nostradamus. This is going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. And
both of my neighbors on the sides of me, they do not grocery shop. We see on a regular basis their orders coming to the house all the time. And I'm just like, that's our society now, is order everything, deliver it, don't care where it comes from, don't care, whatever is easiest. That's what I want. And we don't even check now. Like the whole Amazon thing is like, hey, I need a whatever, Amazon. Now, yes, Amazon has its place. Yes, absolutely. I'm sure there are things you cannot find locally, so you go there. But there are things that we know we can. We could like go to Boardman and get it. Nah, I'm not doing. No, Amazon it. Just Amazon it. And it's like, but it's like 5 minutes away. You could go get that at the store and support your local economy. We don't.
So I'm saying, like, self-interest will have us replacing ourselves. AI will take it because now it's possible. The only conversation we're having is, what do you do with the people that are replaced? What do you do with them? And if you start working on that now, then it's going to be fine. If we wait until that starts happening, you're going to have a lot of confused people that feel like, in Julie's case, I know that if we just unionized every industry, we would force it so that they would push off innovations and push off automations, because we are nowhere near the answer that saves people from losing their jobs and becoming socialized, consolidated economy. So what would you do? Like, I give you the scepter, and you can't change whether or not it's going to happen or not.
Oh, that's what I was going to change.
No, you can't change it. It's going to happen, but you can start planning now. All right. So I'm going to pick the grocery store example.
Okay.
You have 50 people that work at the grocery store that cut meat, they bag groceries, they do the checkout thing. They're all there right now. And you want to go to them and tell them exactly what to do, because in 5 years, Nostradamus said that this place isn't going to exist. What do you tell them to do?
I don't know. I call in someone smarter than me to tell them what to do.
Okay, so the one option is that all the automations can start planning now and adding that to the cost of what we pay those people now. And so let's just say a robot costs $120,000 to buy a robot, and it lasts for 5 years, and it works around the clock, right?
Yeah. So
it is, your labor cost might have been $40,000 with a human being. So you have a cost savings of about $500,000. So we're going to build the price up and tax that piece of equipment so that it pays $40,000 worth of that person's labor. And then I pay them $40,000. Second part of the equation is saying, listen, you're going to start getting the same amount of money here, but that's not the problem. You're going to make the same amount of money. It's what you do with yourself when that robot, who is now the stand-in for you, right, is what are you going to do to justify your existence and to give back to the community? So if I go to Outback Steakhouse instead of John's Diner down the street, I'm going to do the mistake that rushes money out of my economy. My challenge is to do enough in my local economy that offsets the bad thing that I'm about to do. I have to figure out that since I'm not doing that, what am I going to do instead that writes the ledger?
Yeah, what else can they do? If they're like, well, I've been bagging groceries here for 10 years. It's what I do. And I say, all right, we'll get you financially supported. Go do something else. And they're like what?
Well, you have to balance the ledger. So if you cut your grass on a regular basis, right? And you're like, it takes me a half hour every Saturday to cut my grass, and I'm going to pay a lawn care place to come in, and they're going to charge me $100 to cut my grass. But that's going to now cost me. I don't have to do it, but now I'm free, right? I don't have to do anything. And my challenge to you is write the ledger. So now you have to do something that was equal to what the $100 cost you.
That also won't be taken over by a robot.
No, take that out the equation. Just writing yourself with what it means to equal the ledger. Taking the snapshot of what you were doing before and adding equal value back to it after you've replaced it with the lawn care company. You would have to do something that put at least $100, right? So it'd have to be the benefit of you doing it where you save money, or less costs. Okay, so both exist. Either you make more net gain or you reduce less cost. But that's the math on solving this problem, is you have to be fluent in what the social cost and consequences and the social net gains are, and adding those two things up and say, a human being, what part of society could you argue that a person working in a grocery store is already a placeholder?
It's already a place.
Is already a placeholder. They're trading time in their day to do a job. Do you think that is what they were designed and built to do on this planet?
Maybe.
Or do you think they're doing that because they have to do that, right? And they're making a sacrifice and a concession to do something because they have to. So there would be already...
Well, somebody's got to do it. And maybe to them, it's like, this is close to where I live. This works out with the hours so I can pick my kids up from school. This is whatever. So they could be like, sure, is it ideal? No, but this job meets all the other needs of me.
Okay,
so I do the
if
job.
you write it on the ledger, it is pay the bills, right?
Have my flexibility with the hours I work. And,
okay.
Yeah. So I could see them saying, this job is good for me. It's what I want to do because it allows me to...
it's not like purpose and passion, and you wouldn't choose to do that if you didn't have to. So you win the lottery and you're still bagging groceries is really what it comes down to.
Maybe they're a friendly person and they like people and they can talk to people. Yeah.
Maybe. But for a majority, they're placeholders. They have to do that thing. They would not choose to do that thing if it weren't for the thing, their obligations.
I mean, do you ever, we all have those little grocery stores where the baggers are maybe special needs. And they really do seem to love that.
Let's not go to the exception. I'm saying but the majority of people are placeholders. That is not what they would choose if you took need off of the table, right?
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So if we get rid of all of the placeholders and now they're free to do whatever they were passionate, being that all of our civilization has ripped passion out of people, we would have to teach people how to pursue things that they are passionate about.
Okay, so kind of we've discussed, I like movies. I'm into acting. I like being part of local projects, but I never am because it's during the day. People send me something. Hey, they're shooting this thing in Hershey, PA, and they get paid extras. And I was like, that's nice. I'm at work. I can't I couldn't leave a day of work to go and make $50 for a full day. That's not worth it. It's too far. I can't pursue my passion. I gotta make money. So you're saying, it would free people up to go.
But teaching people how to add net benefit by pursuing their passions. So if you're freed up and you were just on idle, the good chance that you're going to pursue destructive things and become unhealthy and unstable and depressed and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Pursuing your passions means that you're going to go do something you like, but on the aggregate, you're not adding much net value. So we use the lawn care. So the lawn care beautifies your yard, right?
Yeah.
And so maybe while somebody else is mowing your lawn, you're challenged with adding as much net value as the thing that you replace. So you would have to then substitute and say, while I'm doing nothing, either I'm going to go pound some beers in the backyard, which is the destructive idle,
which is COVID,
right? Or I then have to look around and see, since I'm freed up with the thing that I don't have to do now, what can I do that gave at least as much value as what I was replaced for? Maybe I weed the garden, right? And you can make the argument that I wasn't able to weed the garden, and now the garden is weeded, and not only did I get my lawn mowed, then the garden is ready to plant produce. And if we put a pressure on it to be a net gain, which means it would you would be freed up on your time doing something that you want to do that adds a higher value than what the thing you were freed up on.
Kind of like, my husband is retired now, and he does some things on the side, but he doesn't, have a full-time job. And so he might sometimes feel like, well, what's my value? And I'm like, do you have any idea what you're saving us in childcare? And you take them to the doctor's appointments. You take them to practice. You take them here and there. You clean the house. You cut our grass. So that I can go to work and I can go to this and I can you are giving the benefit of I don't have to miss because you're doing all of this.
And
that's beneficial.
That's where culture would have to be reprogrammed because we're really bad at math, right? We're conditioned to do very simple things that we're obligated to do. And then we're not really thinking on net gain, right? But in when you're talking about trade deficiencies, when I give you more than you give me, then we have a conversation about it, but we're paying attention to the metrics that let us know who's giving more or who's taking more. But people don't do that because we're on idle. That's what I'm saying. Like, we've been conditioned that academics and the economy and the marketplace put normal people on idle, and they are just a placeholder for what they can be, what they should be doing, because they'll make one of two mistakes. Either they'll make concessions and be idle and be happy about it, not happy about it, but be content with it. They'll take and be destructive with any idle time, or they'll pursue things with zero net gain. All of those are terrible.
Yeah, because a lot of people, I think, would pursue a passion that they can't make money
Exactly, because they don't have an understanding with what a net gain is. Like, they would do something like, let's just say you're not mowing the grass, right? And all I challenge you with is find a net gain. You would struggle to find out, what could I do that was equal value to mowing the grass, and do something that you really wanted to do, like draw chalk on your whatever. It made you happy.
Yeah.
But when you make your argument back at me, you'll have to say something like, well, I felt really good, rather than I actually did something of value contributing to my environment.
But that's the thing, is, won't they feel stuck if you're like, hey, you took my job, you gave it to a robot, you said, go pursue something else.
Wouldn't know what to do. That's the problem.
My passion, though, I want to dance, but I'm not a professional dancer. I will make no money. I don't have a passion, so I got to find something that actually makes a net gain. So then I might as well have just stayed in my job. You're trading one placeholder for another.
There's a missing part. The trade of value to the marketplace and things that you like doing, right, don't have to be at odds with one another. They just have to be connected.
That's hard, though. Don't you think it's hard for people to find?
We have to train an entire civilization how to keep the circuit working. All right, if the restaurant and the supplier deal with one another, right, then the restaurant knows they get a group of people who are supportive of what they're doing, because then when they're given the chance, are supportive back to the other person. That circuit keeps flowing. But the minute that somebody bails out of that circuit and decides to not add value, take value, and that's the socialism thing that Jerry was pointing out, they ruin the system, because now you're a starving artist where you can't go do an acting thing, because the first chance of people that view your acting, they rip money out and don't give it back to you. They give it to somebody else who aren't doing it. They break that cycle.
Julie says, see you in a week. I'm going to pursue something with zero net gain. Gonna love it.
No, don't, Julie. I want to talk you out of it. Don't do net gain, net loss things. Don't be a parasite. Go ahead, make your argument. You want to.
Ideally, it would be wonderful if everyone could find out what they're passionate about, what they truly enjoy.
You have to be taught.
And they make money doing
it. That you have to be taught.
Taught what? How to make it financially beneficial?
Both. First, what even is a passion? Because right now we have very suppressed passions, right? Limiting passions. There's a whole world of other passions out there that aren't even known about. So you got to teach people. Like, kids know how to do passions and dreams. They do. They follow their instincts. They follow their their desires in the appropriate way. Adults start making concessions, and then we forget how to dream. We forget how to go long odds. We forget how to tempt things that are unlikely to happen. Yeah. So an adult's version of passions are going to be self-serving, and you got to taught out of the self-serving and ego part of it, and teach people how to dream.
I remember when I first, Julie says, sorry, Joe, I'm going to contribute to the economy of Florida.
Okay,
going on vacation.
Good.
Enjoy your vacation, Julie. I remember when I was graduating high school and I was going to college and I had to pick a major. I remember having this feeling of like, I don't know, I have to do something. It's a job. What will I not just hate? And I'll go with that. And I remember my first semester was early childhood education, because I knew people who were teachers. It seemed okay. Some kids are cute. You get summers off. And I don't mean to insult a teacher by saying that, but the hours maybe are flexible. I'll do that. And after a semester, I was like, I'm not into this. I don't care for kids that much. I'm just not, this isn't fun to me. And I remember my mom coming to me and I said, yeah, I don't know. I think I need to change my major. And she's like, I can't believe you didn't go into communications. And I said, what? She's like, you love talking. You love the radio. You love broadcasting. You love doing all this stuff. Why wouldn't you do that? And I said, You can do that as a job. Why don't I do that? I just didn't know it was an option. And she's like, why don't you try to get into radio? And I said, why don't I? Because to me it was, well, that's fun. That's interesting, but that's not realistic. That's not a job. That's not going to make me money. And then you're like, or can it?
So your mom just did the AI thing. So in high school, you went to your guidance counselor and you're given they're trying to like place you in what they think you would be good at. And they give you the salaries of all of those places. And pretty much everybody didn't pick what they loved. They picked what it was going to make because that was.
Well, I did. And I got entertainment industry and that. Oh,
okay.
Thanks for that.
So, but AI it knows you. It knows your intellect. It knows what you've done. It can make these suggestions, taking all things into consideration. And maybe your passions change when things that you didn't even realize were possible. So you walk into a restaurant and there's 4 items on the menu, right? It's easy to make a selection and you're going to pick your best, worst one or your worst, best one, right? And you're going to be okay because the limitations made you more comfortable versus you go into some restaurants and there's 62 pages of items and you are completely paralyzed just with all the options that are there. So you end up categorizing yourself and eliminating the parts that you don't even want to look at because all it's going to distract you. You're never going to be able to decide because there's just too many options. Well, you need a limiter that knows enough about you. So if the menu knew something about you and only put something in front of you that we eliminated all the things that you couldn't eat, you really don't like, that you really can't afford, and the only things that's left on that menu, it's not the 4 of them that we only put there so that you'd pick the worst, best choice. And we didn't do the other version of it where just like you decide and hopefully you come to good conclusions, logic eliminated the ones that made the most use. Now you can contemplate 6 really good, decent options, and now you've been taught to dream by taking the impossibilities that you wouldn't like off of the table so they didn't distract you. AI can help teach us and take the place of your mom.
AI is going to take the place of my mom.
And your guidance counselor. And your intuitions and the things you think you want, you're probably not going to make you happy.
I don't even need my own brain.
You don't. AI.
That's why we're dumb is AI. I need you to tell me what to think and do.
It'll make much better decisions. You'll be happier when you offload all of your thinking ability to AI.
It is interesting when you see things like Chat GPT or all these other stuff that you can like just put information in and it'll tell you all this stuff about yourself. And it's like to me, it's almost like the idea of going to therapy where the therapist didn't tell you anything new. They just regurgitated what they learned about you. And you're like, oh my gosh, I never realized that about myself. Because you needed it sort of reflected back in a different way. Yeah.
So AI is the cause of this problem and AI is the solution to this problem. Isn't that amazing? Human beings will be made happier because AI will tell them exactly
if you say so, I
do.
Still have my reservations.
You think humans are good at making decisions?
Not always. And it would be nice for AI to be like, hey, tell me a bit about yourself. I'm going to give you some suggestions and it might really be helpful. I think that's a benefit.
Yeah, you go to Amazon and it gives you recommendations on product that you usually buy and are seasonal and whatever. And every once in a while, you're like, oh, I would have never freaking thought of that. And it's a good suggestion.
Like if you watch Reels on Facebook or on Instagram, and then you're served more content because they know you like that. And it's like,
that's what AI could do.
I do like watching puppies and home decor, and I appreciate you showing me this.
When it gets good, better at human beings, better than your own brain, you will use it as the tool it was designed to do. So it will be your solution.
Still feels wrong. Just feels wrong. To a point. I like some of it, but at one point I feel like we get to iRobot, and then it's like,
I made the prediction. It will get to iRobot.
Did you or did Nostradamus make the prediction?
I am Nostradamus when it comes to AI.
Joe Adamus.
Yeah.
You should start writing stuff now and then leave it for people in the future.
Put it in envelopes and leave it around. Do not open until 2037.
They're going to think you were like a prophet or something.
Put it in a leather-bound book and put it on a shelf somewhere. Oh, that would
and then
be
they'll
great.
take your image and recreate you.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to live forever.
Oh, this is going to be great. That's such a good idea. Anything else? Do we miss any other?
Let's see.
No, we're good.
Yeah.
All right. That was a good one.
Fun time.
On Monday, the MLO Bros will be back. They have Dave Beatrice and they also have Craig Hockenberry. They have 2 guests coming in, so those will be explosive.
Get your popcorn
fireworks.
and
Absolutely. So have a good weekend, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.